hope you all have your notes or a sheet of paper or something nearby, or you can even just say it off the dome, off your mind. But we're gonna do a bio poem. You're gonna say your first name, 3 adjectives to describe you, son or daughter of, who loves, who fears, who dreams, who lives, and last name. So I still want to practice feedback. Y'all kind of use the chat whenever I ask for the one word check-in, but we want to keep using the chat. So I'm going to do an example. And if you like what you hear, you can put some snaps. I've been seeing the word snaps in the chat. You can put snaps, you can put emojis, you can quote a line or say, I really like that word, any type of feedback to encourage us while we are presenting our soul on paper. So I'm gonna start with mine, and then I'll give y'all a few minutes to write yours, and then we'll have our first share out of this activity. So Jamie, who is creative, fun, ambitious, the daughter of living legends, who loves music, poetry, and dogs, who fears the unknown, who dreams of all of her wishes coming true, who lives happily, McAdoo. You snap it up at the end, you snap it up at the end. Okay, so I'm gonna give y'all a couple minutes to write your own, and then we'll share for that. So this is the template. This is your bio poem. I want to know who is on this Zoom and what do they have to say about themselves. Okay, your time starts now. For those joining, I'm giving y'all a couple minutes to write your bio poem. So this is the template that you follow. And after a couple minutes are up, I'm gonna ask for volunteers to unmute themselves and share their bio poem. So that's what we're doing right now for those who just joined. And y'all have 1 more minute. You can give me a thumbs up when you're done so I can see how we're doing. Okay, we got 1. Give y'all a few more seconds. We got a couple thumbs up, thumbs ups, thumb ups. Okay, I see a couple more thumbs ups rolling in. I'm really confused on if I should say thumb ups or thumbs ups. I'll figure it out. Okay, so since we got at least 4 thumbs up, I'm gonna take volunteers now to share their bio poem, and we wanna continue to give feedback in the chat. Okay, so who would like to volunteer first to share their bio poem? I saw some thumbs up.
What
This
the
is called
microphone
waiting
is.
time. Both of my
You
parents
hear?
are teachers,
You hear
and they taught me that this is called waiting time. So if it gets a little uncomfortable, it's okay. It's waiting time. I'm gonna pressure somebody into going first, and I think we got somebody who's unmuted over here with this interesting background there, sir. Go ahead, please introduce yourself and do your bio poem.
All right, can you hear me?
Yes.
All right, LaRon, artistic, musical, and fun. Rem Dr. C.E. McAdoo and Gloria's son, who loves creating, performing, and eating food when it's done. Who fears outliving my seed, losing my talent, and not being known by anyone. Who dreams of a legacy, creating a big company and shine on others like the sun.
Mm-hmm.
Who lives in Little Rock, and that's one hun, McAdoo.
Yeah, okay. Y'all did not have to rhyme every line like he did, but that was very creative that he did that. Okay, we're gonna keep it rolling with our next volunteer. I need to hear about y'all. Who else can unmute and share their bio poem?
Can I share mine?
Yes.
Your camera's not on.
Billy. Creative, funny, and smart. Son of my parents. Who loves video games and TV. Fears heights. Dreams about school. Lives happily. McAdoo.
Oh, dreams about what's happening. Okay, that was good. Thank you, Billy. Okay, we'll take one more if there are any others who would like to do the bio poem. This is probably the simplest poem. We're going to get into some deep issues here. This is about social justice, using your voice, and artivism and activism. So we're going to get into some deep topics here.
I have one.
Okay, great. Go ahead.
The video. On Billy, I'm gonna do mine. Charlie, cool, laid back, cool mama, who loves Fam Bam, who fears, who dreams about relativity, who lives on the East Coast in Atlanta. McAdoo.
Yeah, snap it up. Okay, thank you. I love Fam Bam too. If y'all don't have a family group chat, you should have one. Okay, I see Alec is raising his hand, so you can go ahead and unmute and share if that's what you would like to do.
Okay, sorry. I have a lot of background noise, so I'm sorry if you can hear the birds.
Oh, you're good.
Alec, who is skittish, adventurous, and funny, child of two parents who try even through hard times, who loves collecting feathers and shells from the beach, who loves spending time in a mind full of unwritten poetry, who fears the many-legged centipedes that burrow through the garden beds, who dreams of small bakeries and leather books laying on bush shelves, who lives on a farm surrounded by the vultures who pick apart fallen life, fading away to shelter the sprouts and worms, the coyotes who howl as wail through the night sky. Rod.
Wow. How old are you, Alec? That was great.
14.
14, yes. And I didn't ask Billy. How old is Billy?
I am 11.
11 and 14, and y'all are writing like that. Thank y'all for joining. That was great. Okay, we're gonna move into some deeper stuff. So now we're gonna do a free write. So that was just a bio poem. You had a template. I wanted to know who all was on here, but the whole point of this is youth, art, and activism. This is about social justice and how we can use our voices, use our art, use our writing, speak at different events and everything to try to bring people together, try to bring communities together and envision a better world, because Earth without art is eh. I saw that one time like on Twitter, and I was like, that's really true, because you need art to make the world what it is. So now we're going to do a 5-minute free write on what one of these words mean to you. We're going to pick a word from this list. I'm going to share my screen again. And I want to know what you think when you hear these words. What do you envision? What do you see? So you can pick hope, justice, equality, activism, or history. So pick one of these words, or you can even embed 2 or more of these if you want to. But I just want you to pick at least one of these words and just write a 5-minute free write on what that word means to you. So your time will start now. We hope to get some more people sharing. Next time, I might have to pick on some people. I'm going to go ahead and start your time. right, 1 more minute. Start wrapping up your thoughts. This can be a poem or just a free write. Okay, I see someone else just joined. Hi, Miss Janice Kearney. Thank you for joining. Right now, we're wrapping up a free write using these 5 words or picking one word from the list and writing about what it means to you. And y'all have like 30 more seconds, so start wrapping it up, and then I will ask for volunteers. Okay, so I'm really interested to see how which word people picked and what these words mean to you. So I'll go ahead and get it started. Can we get our first volunteer to tell their word? Oh, I have somebody who messaged me. Okay, Miss Stacy, I see your hand is raised. Can you go on and say yours?
Hello. So my word was hope, and hope is showing up and giving it your all, even when you know the odds are stacked against you. It's choosing to love in spite of the pain, to conjure the light in the midst of darkness, to understand that growth results from the storms and the rain. Hope is knowing that the world is messed up, but still striving to make it better.
Ooh, that was great. Thank you for that. Yeah, still striving to make it better. Okay, who's next? You can either raise your hand, put in the chat that you will go, or just unmute. So who is our next volunteer?
Can I go next?
Yes,
Yeah.
make sure you speak up. It's a little hard.
Hope is the cement in the factory, the glue that binds us all together. No barriers can stop the power inside us all. Because when you think about it, if one of us fails, then everyone falls.
Ooh, I like
Wow.
that. You started off, you said it's the cement in the factory. And then, okay, it's the glue that holds us all together. I like that, Billy. Okay, anybody else? Anybody else want to share which one they picked?
Ooh, I'll go.
Okay.
Okay, let me get it. So my word was history. I see the same thing again. The arts of old still speak clearly today. Technology can change, the world can change, even history will change, but it'll still repeat itself. The people will repeat themselves. So the pain and strife of 1,000 years ago arises to show us that we are not and we never were alone.
Okay, I like that. I like the way it was organized. Like this stuff will repeat, this stuff will repeat, but it lets us know this. I like that. Okay, Ron Mac, I see you got your camera on. Does that mean that you're prepping in order to say your poem?
I can.
All right, take it away.
All right. What does the word justice mean? Justice is a higher calling than law. Understanding that there is something bigger than yourself, there is right, there are the righteous. So many people confused the legal system. So many people confuse the legal system with justice, when in reality, law is a practice, justice is an absolute. Justice is a higher calling than law. Law is man-made. Justice is divine. Law is a game of intellect. Justice is a spiritual result. I can only hope that one day man will operate in justice instead of showing injustice as a common operating procedure. Justice is a higher calling than law.
Yeah, I like that. There's a distinction. You hear justice and you think about the legal system, you think about all of this, but it's beyond that. Okay, I think Miss Cheryl, I can ask to unmute.
Okay. I think I'm the oldest one here, but
Yeah.
okay. Equality is not static, ever evolving awareness. Loving my neighbor as myself and loving myself. Quite a challenge sometimes when we all are competing in so many ways about so many things and vying to be better, best than others, instead of focusing on being only my best self without putting others down. Is appreciating others, being humble, seeking to understand, being proud of who I am and of who others are.
Yes, I really like that. We got Alec with his hand raised.
Hope is the feeling when the waitress doesn't assume things about you based on your appearance. When the collections of dismantled almosts don't feel as heavy on your shoulders and you can just exist. Hope is when the plants grow between the cracks of the concrete roads, reminding us that the plants we all call infectious can survive long after us. And all the flowers bloom not after our deaths, but when we need them the most. When the rivers remain murky with only the mud washed around by the minnows and herons, and not the oil washing over the waves, dripping off the banks and the hands of all we touch. Hope is when the shadows rest undisturbed and the stars lay visible in the night skies. People are able to turn off our lanterns and just exist. Hope is when the desire for your memories is no longer. No, hope is when the desire for your memories to no longer feel like a blanket suffocating you, and instead can rest comfortable behind you. Hope is when you can continue and to appreciate life when you can, because we don't get much time in this world, so we have to do what we can to fix the black. Oh wow, I didn't get that far.
Ooh, you were just going. That was really good. Give it up for Alec. Thank everybody for sharing. If anybody else would like to share. Oh, okay. I just read a message. Thank you for joining. Okay, wow. So everybody can have a different perspective on these words, hopefully positive and optimistic as we move into the future, because we kind of have to be in order to stay sane. So now I'm going to share my screen to my website. I'm going to show a poem that was inspired by history, and then we'll move on from there. Well, that actually isn't the right way that I want to share it. Okay. So I do have a website and it has all of my poetry and information on there. I'll put it in the chat later. It is JameeMcAdoo.com. And I had a poem on here that I would like to show y'all that had to do with history and my take on history. My parents were my first history teachers. At an early age, in my earliest days, I was taught the culture behind my race, the beauty beyond my face, the common inventions and ways of living that you can trace back to Africa. I knew about the brotherhood that was taken from the motherland. My mother's hands never changed my natural roots. My mother's hands held me as we watched roots. My father's glance compelled me to pay attention to roots. My brother and I watched Eyes on the Prize. My brother and I watched documentaries that show Martin Luther King died, Emmett Till died, Black people died in America, Black people died. My brother and I watched the news as Trayvon Martin's parents cried. My parents took us to museums and we observed the gems. They took us to lectures and we listened back then. They taught us about Central High School too, way before we went to school. And in a way, I felt like the 10th Literate Nine from behind, the little sister of them all, the fly on the wall, the shadow on call, and I saw how they were treated. And I saw how they retreated, and I violently fought the system that fought them back 10 times harder. I saw because I am the daughter of the movement. I knew this at an early age, so by 9th grade, I expected attending Central High to be iconic, to be as if I would be a part of history. I represent the third wave generation after the desegregation. It's amazing that it wasn't that long ago. I know that we have come from a long ways, but we still have a ways to go. But at least in Arkansas, we can say it started at Central High, where I am now one of 9 Black students in a school of nearly 3,000, a place that has over 20 languages and counting, a school where I am not greeted every day with 2468. We don't want to integrate shoutings. In 1957, Central High was the beginning of change. And I knew this at an early age, I mean in my earliest days, because my parents were my first history teachers. So we actually have Talia on here who was saying, speak, Jamie. That was my cousin who recorded this. So shout out to you. Thank you for doing that for me. But yeah, so actually when I did my year of service as the 2019 Miss Heritage's Outstanding Teen, the whole point of that pageant, Miss Heritage, was to include and bring diversity to the Miss Arkansas pageant system, to the Miss America pageant system as a whole. It was to bring in diversity. So I went representing my culture, of course, and my platform was actually building intergenerational conversations. So I think with history, a lot of times it's like the old way and the new way. And, you know, younger people are like, we shouldn't do what the older people say. Like, we have our own way, we're progressive, we're changing things. And then there's the older people who are like, oh, the new generation is messing things up, or they're not how we were about it, or they're doing things in a totally different way. My whole platform was that we need to have conversations. We need to look back at old protests and at old methods that did work. Look back at history, at the things that did work, the civil rights movements and everything that worked for them, and learn from those, and then try to implement new ways to improve. So I think it's all about a cohesive conversation, an intergenerational conversation, to make the world a better place. We all have to learn from each other, but also continue growing. So that's what I kind of traveled around Arkansas, promoting through poetry while I was serving as the Miss Heritage's Outstanding Teen. And I'm kind of a little behind on the chat, but yeah, that's what Chris was saying in his piece. You know, you have to learn from each other. We're not alone. History will repeat itself. People tend to repeat themselves. But if we look back and learn what worked, and then think forward to what could work, I think we can make the world a better place. So that was my take on history. But now I'm going to challenge y'all to think back to my first poem that I performed, which was His Name is Poetry. And I want to ask y'all if y'all know what literary device I used in both the title and the poem. His Name is Poetry, saying that poetry was the love of my life. What literary device was that? I'll give you a second of thinking time, but if anybody knows the literary device used in His Name is Poetry. Did somebody unmute intentionally? Personification, yes. So I think I was in maybe 6th grade when I learned about personification, which is giving, you know, an inhuman thing, human-like characteristics. So of course, I can't talk to poetry. Poetry can't literally calm me down. Poetry is not my boyfriend, but you personify it. So I made him this person that I can lean on and talk to, and that has comforted me all of these years. So yeah, that's personification. So now I'm gonna challenge y'all for this next activity to go back to the first prompt that we did with hope, justice, equality, and activism. You can either use the same word or pick a new word, and I want you to personify it. I want you to write from the perspective of the word. Is hope faking a smile? Is justice tired or still passionate? Is equality looking for friends? Is activism still alive? Is history learning from his or her mistakes? So you'll have a 7-minute write this time. Let me pull up the other page. I'll screen share whenever I stop with the instructions to show y'all those words again, but you can pick a word from the list and do a write, and we're gonna personify that word. How does hope feel in 2022? You know, how has history changed throughout the year? So I'm gonna let y'all get creative with that, personify one of those 5 words. So we have a question in the chat. You can pick either one. You can either do the same word that you did before, or you can pick a different one. And I'm going to share the screen again to remind you of those words. So yeah, it's up to you. Okay, halfway done, 3 more minutes. I like that one. I'm gonna go back to that. All right, 1 minute as this song finishes, we'll get started. All right. So I really want to hear y'all's personifying pieces. So we'll go ahead and get started with our first volunteer. If not, I will volunteer somebody. Okay, no red.
I'll go. I'll volunteer.
Okay, great.
Yeah, so my name is No Real McAdoo, and I wrote a poem on I'm just going to tell y'all. I wrote it on justice. So here we go. In today's America, credit card scams and identity theft are at an all-time high. See, my friend has had troubles with this phenomenon since way back. He's missing. Well impersonated. Have you seen him? He's 6'1", 22 years old, black male, and his name's Justice. Now, I know that might come as a surprise since the Justice you come to know today looks 5'10" and is a white male, sometimes with his hand on the badge or sometimes on the gun. Most of the time, always pointed at a black male. Then that's all I got. I didn't even get far in it. But it took me a minute to figure that out. But I knew where I wanted to go.
Yeah, you just hit us with that. Somebody said, I love where you were going. Yeah, that can be a great 10 piece. For though I didn't really talk about my slam poetry experience, but I got most of my family on here and we are all slam poets. We like to compete in poetry slams and they judge you Olympic style 0 to 10. And then they take the 3 scores and they take the average and that's how you have your score. So whenever I say that's a 10 piece, that means, ooh, that could be a great, perfect 10 out of 10 piece. That was very creative. I loved it. Okay, who next would like to volunteer? I want to hear about these people. I want to hear about hope and justice and equality and activism and history. So who can give a different spin on one of those?
Can I volunteer?
Yes.
History. Some believe them, some don't. Some may lie or discuss them, or some won't. Most think he's stuck in the past. I learn about him every day, yet he changes so fast.
Wait, you got to say that last line one more time. You learn about him every day, but what? I got to hear the last.
I learn about him every day, yet he changes so fast.
Yet it changes so fast. Yes. Snap it up for Billy. Okay, keeping it rolling. What poet is next? We got Alex, Cheryl, Vernita, Naya, SM, Matt, Chris, Cherie, Dr. Charlie E. McAdoo II, Ron Mack. Oh, we got a raised hand. Okay.
Okay. I push you into greatness, hold you up in moments of weakness, help you to see the possibilities. I shift and shape your perspectives, allow you to taste victory and failure. I make you better. I am hope.
Ooh, the imagery though, I love all of that. I'm like, who, but you do all of these to make them better, your hope. I love that. You took on hope. You personified and became hope. I like that. Snap it up. Okay, we got Alec is ready.
History watches as activism stands at the front of the parade, the front of people's minds as they search to find a right to not only exist but to thrive. History watches as equality stands front and center, holding hands with everyone in an attempt to say, I'm just like you. Why do you hate me? I can help you. History watches as justice screams as loud as it can, hoping for someone to acknowledge and act on it, and not brush them out of the room to keep an illusion of peace. History watches as hope wraps their arms around those who need it most, begging people to listen to words and dreams clouded behind the pain of existence. History watches and history will learn as these people stand up for what they believe and their voices aren't washed away.
Okay. Yeah, we got these history poems are giving me life. Same. I love that. And you didn't say the word, leading us to figure out your word. I put in the chat, I liked where you said, I'm just like you. Why do you hate me? I can help you. Alec, I need you at every one of my events moving forward so you could be I was like, oh, I know. Alec can do an example. Alec, I'm going to just go to you next time because I'm loving it. Okay, we have another hand. You can go ahead and unmute Christopher Williamson.
Yeah, okay. I think she's misunderstood and it's frustrating. She wants to be there for everyone, but she gets twisted on the way to her target. So when she hears the call of Black people for equality, she rushes to them. But on the way, she's polluted by racism and hate. And by the time she returns, she's delivering hate speech and tear gas and bullets equally. And that's not what she was called to do. That's it.
Yes. And that's not what I feel like that had a great start. I was gonna say great start and then a great ending, but it also had a great middle too. So it was just a great poem because I liked all of that. It was, she's misunderstood, she does this, and then okay, we also got you have a poetic sounding voice. Yes, loving it. Okay, next volunteer. I know all of y'all had at least 7 minutes to write, so everybody should have something to share. So I'm gonna still milk it a little bit if we can get one more volunteer. Naya. Naya,
I knew you were gonna do that. I was just typing in the chat. You know, I'm taking my time.
I know you always take. I know how you do. That's how I know it's great.
I got 2 parts of okay, I'm gonna finish it later, but okay. How does it feel to have feet calloused and crooked, beaten by the decades of paths made rugged, stained with the blood of your dearly beloveds? And how does it feel to have legs of pillars, made rock solid by the refusal of stoppage, strong enough to carry every burden, sprinting through every battle in spite of the burning? That's all I have so far.
Oh, that's great. I feel like I can see how we are alike with poetry, how you keep saying, oh, that's all I have. Like, I got to finish it later. But like that, wow, that was really good. Y'all are really giving a lot of these poetic devices that we like to hear, like with the metaphors. Of course, this is personification. And then just the imagery. Like, y'all are really good at describing and explaining what we're talking about. So I love that. Okay, so that's all for that. Thank y'all all for sharing. Now we're gonna transition a little bit. We're already there, but so for me, I have been doing poetry since I was young. I started competing and winning poetry slams in like middle school and talent shows and stuff. And then in high school, I was the poet. Like I owned it. I did a lot with it. I spoke at a lot of different protests. I organized different events. And unfortunately, during I believe we can have multiple peaks and multiple primes in our life. During one of my poetry peaks, it was a lot of viral videos that was going on. High school was a very, watching the news while I was in high school was very disheartening, very emotional. It was always a viral video of a Black person getting shot at the hands of the police. And I wrote a lot of poems about it and I performed it a lot. And so that's where we're gonna lead into now. And then I want y'all to write a reflective piece. So I'm just gonna go ahead and get started. This was like a poem, unfortunately, this is what's so sad about it. I wrote it, it wasn't Trayvon Martin. It was a earlier one though. It might've been Eric Gardner. And I just had to keep repeating it. It would be like, oh, we're doing this for Sandra Bland. Oh, and it was different names and the poem still fit. And my intro was always, I wrote this poem 4 years ago, but sadly it's still relevant. And now it's like 6 or 7 years ago and it's still relevant. And that's the sad thing, but that's why we have to have hope. That's why we have to believe in justice. We know that activism is bruised right now. We know that they're trying, but they're hurt. And so that's why we have to think about it like that and still try to be hopeful for the future. But I don't know how long I will be performing this poem, and that is the sad truth. It's entitled Don't Press Play. Can you tell me why? Every time I step outside, I see my people die. I'm letting you know that it ain't no gun they make that can kill my soul. My mother told me not to press play. She looked at me and said, there's nothing you can get out of. There's no good you can feel from watching the police kill another Black male, okay? So I said, okay, and I went on my way. But as the hashtag spread, I got more and more mad. I got more and more sad that he was dead. It put everything into perspective as I was lying in my bed. It put everything into perspective as I was imagining it being my brother, cousin, uncle, grandfather, father in my head, which would be the day I dread. It put everything into perspective. as I watched how he bled. Hashtag Black Lives Matter I read as everyone commented on these videos and said, but we are going nowhere. How are we being led? This movement isn't moving. This world isn't changing. Racism still isn't fading. We are all just waiting. We are all just shaking. We are all afraid, and it's pretty degrading. I'm just a poet contemplating why people are how they are, and why people take things so far, and why people have so much hate. We are all a part of the human race. How can they not see the pain on our face is permanently stained? This was going to be a list poem where I list all the names of police brutality cases against the Black race. But the list went down the page. Instead, it's a lost poem where I'm lost and afraid and sad and mad and hopeless because I honestly can't imagine the day where death isn't dependent on your race. And I don't mean to give up, but I give up. I'm sorry to put y'all down, but how can I lift y'all up? I suppose it's people like me who complain on and don't make the slightest difference. But then there are people like some who don't complain at all and don't make a difference at all. Everyone has the choice. Complain or not complain, stand up or sit down, spark something or blow it out. Through challenge and awe, keep going or stay down when you fall. And then there's y'all, the listeners. Which side is your call? So can you tell me why? Every time I step outside, I see my people die. I'm letting you know that it ain't no gun they make that can kill my soul. All we want to do is take the chains off. All we want to do is be free. All we want to do is take the chains off. All we want to do is be free. All we want to do is take the chains off. Can you tell me why? Every time I step outside, I see my people die. I'm letting you know that it ain't no gun they make that can kill my soul. All we want to do is take the chains off. And all we want to do is be free. I shouldn't have pressed play. Whew. So that was that. Don't press play. That was that summarized it for me. You know, like you see the videos, and I think there are podcasts out, there are studies out about how traumatizing it is to literally watch someone die, to see the blood, to see the child in the back seat, to see that their hands were up, like all that comes with watching the videos, to see that they were laying out on the ground for hours and nobody and the police didn't help them. Like all of these different stories these images are still popping up in my mind right now. I remember seeing the videos. I remember what it felt like. And I guess I just walked in my mama's room one time. I'm like, this is trending. Like, have you seen? And she said, don't look at it. She was like, what good would come out of looking at it? Like, don't watch the videos. And I think a lot of times, me personally, I know a lot of people in the Black community, I'm sure anybody who is really plugged in, like it gets draining to see so many things that you want to unplug, you want to not watch it. So that was my reflective piece. That was how I felt after constantly seeing so many viral videos of people who looked like me and my family. So now I want y'all to write a reflective piece. So we wrote our bios, we wrote based on a word, we did personification, but now it's about you. How do you feel when you hear of these different social justice issues or inequalities or inequities? How do you feel when you watch the news? How did you feel when you see these new headlines coming up of all these new tragedies? So this is just a reflective piece. It could be about anything in the news, anything social justice related. But yeah, just a reflective piece about how you feel. So this is a 7-minute write, and your time starts now. All right, we got 1 minute left, so wrap up your final thoughts. Okay, last few seconds. So we want those last ideas getting out. Okay. So now I would love to hear y'all's reflections on how y'all are feeling in the current political and social climate, what y'all chose to write about and how y'all chose to write it. So do we have our first volunteer? Not all at once. Miss Bernita?
Okay. Now I'm not a poet,
Yes,
so
you are.
bear with me. Bear with me. I remember the old times when we didn't have to lock doors or have alarms, when children could play outside undisturbed from threats, kidnapping, rape, and death. I remember when kids went to school and they came back home. I remember when we fought. We fought with words and fists, not with assault rifles full of deadly ammunition. I also remember that we were talking about a better place, a place where there would be no more sorrow, pain, there would be joy and love. That's what I want to remember.
Ooh, that was good. The old days, yeah, they did say kids used to just play outside till the street lights came on and all of that. And now everybody got Ring doorbells and camera systems to make sure everybody's safe. So I feel that. That was a good poem. Thank you for sharing. Okay.
guess-
Okay.
Mine is a little different than I'm used to writing. I just kind of put some phrases together. Actually, this is normally my starting process. But anyway, I thought about the little young lady as a headline. I thought about the little 7-year-old girl who was shot. So here we go. Baby shot in crossfire. Who fired the cross? Who set fire to cross? Who's mourning the loss? How many mornings has she lost? How many souls walk around lost? How many people walk around the loss to leave them after they have branched out far from our tree? This 7-year-old, she was part of our family tree. Someone chopped and parted our family tree. As for me, how is this for me? I wish I could fight like it was 4 of me for this innocent baby who found crossfire. So now I turn to the cross.
Ooh, Yeah, I mean, that's what workshops are good for too, is just getting those ideas out, getting the inspiration there. And then later, y'all are definitely encouraged to further pieces or tweak pieces or whatever. So yeah, love that. Anybody else for this part? Just a reflective piece.
I want to go.
Okay, Naya, and then I see Alec after.
Oh, Alec can go. Alec can go first.
Okay, Alec.
I'm tired of watching as my father comes home from the police station with tears in his eyes after a long day of trying to argue against people who wish to hurt Black people, trans people, disabled people, Muslim people. The list goes on, and I'm tired of watching as people get hurt because of society's vanity, because we are all just people, so why can't we see each other as such? I'm tired of seeing my father have to call in to report workers who just can't find it in their hearts to support people. I'm tired of the fear that runs through me every time I have to decide men's bathroom or women's. I'm tired of the fear in my mind knowing both can lead to confrontation against my very existence. I'm tired to have to block blog after blog as hate comments flood through every post. I'm tired of the pain I watch people around me and people on the news go through every day.
Wow, Alec, you put a lot into that. Like, I feel that, yeah, it's a tiredness. It's like, when does it end? When do people just see people as people? Why is there so many different labels and so many different inequalities in the world? Why can't I just be me? So I like that. Thank you for sharing that. Are there any more on this part?
Me.
Oh, yeah.
Let's see. I might have to just go off the dome at the very end for last time. We'll see. Okay. A piece of my heart goes when you go. That black and brown magic that brightens my day, widens my face, parts my lips to put a smile in its place. That noir goodness that soothes my soul. A piece of my patience goes when you go. Laid the foundation that holds us up. The epitome of beauty, grace, faith, and might was always us. Crowns that float, defying the laws of all nature. Features distinctly made for him and her. A piece of me goes when you go. Every lie ever told. You're dangerous. You're ugly. You're dumb. You're too loud. You're too bold. Proven false 1,000-fold. Black lives, much more priceless than the gold they kill us for. Hunted and murdered, life stolen from up under us. That's all I got.
Ooh, y'all, that would be a 10-piece. That would be a 10-piece. I love that. Was always us, like crowns. Like, ooh, yes. That was great. Okay, I don't think there are any more, but if there are, going once, going twice. So Naya was the last volunteer for that one. Thank y'all for participating. Okay, so now for this last section of the workshop, we're gonna watch 2 poetry videos and kind of talk about them. I would be remiss if I didn't have this poem, or if I didn't have this workshop about using our voice for social justice without talking about what just happened in Texas. And unfortunately, again, as I have a Black Lives Matter poem that's able to be performed, any time of the year, I actually collaborated with a couple of other poets, and we had a It's Not a Drill poem about schools and what was going on then. And sadly, that is still relevant now. So I would like to just share this poem to give y'all a glimpse into slam poetry and a group poem and what that all looks like. And then I just want to kind of discuss it. So I want y'all to be listening for what stood out, what made the piece powerful, what literary devices did they use, like how did this sound like a good performance piece that was really moving. I just want us to talk about that so that we can incorporate some of those elements. So I'm gonna pull up my website again, JameeMcAdoo.com, and play this poem. Okay. So I am a part of the Righteous Poets of Little Rock, or of Arkansas, really. We travel all around. We do professional poetry. We do workshops too. And so this was one of our group poems that we did for a poetry slam. My mommy packed a sweet note in my lunchbox one day. It said, I love you, baby. Do good and have a good day. It was random. I said, I love you too. As I opened my Capri Sun juice with hands that have only touched 10 years. But in that one day, eyes that saw what seemed like 10 years of tears, a man came and shot up my school one day. This man, he had a big toy. He wanted to play. But I didn't want to play his game. This is why the teachers were acting so funny after the principal came up on the intercom. This is why everybody in the school tried to remain calm, but inside there was no intercom. This is why the classroom doors were locked. We were on lockdown. I heard loud noises from the other room. Then they stopped. Then I heard them in mine. I couldn't see them because my hair was there. This is why they told us to stay down, stay down, stay down. It's okay, it's okay. It's not okay. I was so afraid. He kicked the door down. Loaded the trigger and fired as my peers' blood stains on their little colored uniform shirts got bigger and bigger. I couldn't think. The sight of everyone running. Teachers hiding behind chairs. Sounds of gunshots that bled through my adolescent ears. Police, helicopters. Bled through my ears. My ears. They bled through my adolescent ears, Lord. Why? I was just a child. A child that just wanted to color. A child that didn't have any anger towards anyone. A child that didn't even know how to spell bullet before you hit me with one. A child that just wanted to go home that day. When I call your name, please say here. Alyssa? Preston? Bailey? They're not here. Young pupils damaged and torn in a place where us kids are supposed to call safe. Stoneman Douglas High School wasn't safe. Marshall County High School wasn't safe. Chardon High School wasn't safe. So why talk about safe? Why did you come into my school and take my life if you were just going to kill yourself? We even had to take away our class time to talk about our escape plan. What did you expect to get from this? Was it a feeling of relief that you didn't have to deal with your life anymore? Because in reality, you don't get to run away. In reality, you don't get to decide that life's too hard. In reality, you don't get to shoot up a school because someone bullied you years ago. Why do you feel like you were the only one special enough to get revenge and you get all the attention? School shooter kills 11 innocent children. School shooter doesn't get arrested for killing 11 innocent children. School shooter gets placed in a mental hospital. School shooter gets out for good behavior while 11 innocent children are still dead. Not fair. You had a choice. I didn't choose to die. I didn't choose for my parents to suffer. I didn't have the choice to survive. It's not fair. It's not fair. It's not fair. Mommy? My mommy visited my grave today. She brought flowers. She whispered to God that I was her growing, beautiful little flower that got plucked and yanked out of the ground before I was ready to bloom. And boom, she crushed the flower. And it was now just as lifeless as me. When I call your name, please say here. Okay, so I will just give a moment of silence for those lives lost from school shootings. Okay, so like I said, that is so crazy how my other poem, my Black Lives Matter poem, is still relevant. This school shooter poem was done when I was in high school, I think a junior or senior in high school. Now I'm a rising senior in college and I can still play it. And what caught my attention when I first thought to include it in this workshop, a line that said, you can't shoot up a school because someone bullied you years ago. And I just saw a tweet about the young man in Texas, and it said that he was bullied as a kid. So it's the history repeats itself problem. It's the problem of not dealing with the problem. It's a lot of issues that contribute to that. But I just kind of wanted to have an open conversation about just comments and reflections of how poetry can be powerful and how that was a good example of how you can use your words to deliver a message. So you can either unmute or put in the chat just things that I guess stood out to you or any questions you had about the piece. Because I do know when Vanessa, the one on the right, said Alyssa, Preston, Bailey, they're not here. Those are actual names of kids that she got from research. So a lot of research can also go into poetry when you're trying to deliver a message. You want to make sure that you have the facts right, and that's what we did with that. But if there were any comments or anything on that, would love to hear feedback.
Yeah, no, that poem was very powerful. And another thing, I don't know if you talked about, I kind of been in and out, I've been moving around, but when you talked about, I don't know if you talked about group pieces, but the group pieces, it actually like, it brings another dynamic when you have multiple voices, different voices, and change up the pace. You got different writers. That just brings another element to a poem when you have a group poem like that. But to piggyback off of what you just said about the research, like that was the reason why the poem that I had said was like, I didn't get that far. Like I was trying to do a little research already. Like I was trying to make, like when I was doing the description, I just wanted to do like an average white male as the justice. And then that was the research that I was doing. And so that's why I couldn't write. But yes, when you do poetry, you need to do research. You wanna be saying things that are actually true and actually factual, because poetry is so personal and emotional, but at the same time, you can also deliver truths as well. So that research is very important.
Yeah, that's a great point. Thank you for that. And I will show another poem, but we, with the Righteous Poets, we were very involved with the desegregation, or the 60th anniversary of the desegregation of Central High School. And so with that, we were writing poems about integrating schools and desegregating schools. We had to research about that. Like, yeah, we're talking about how we feel about it, but also you want to be accurate. And so with that school shooter piece, it's important to be accurate. So the high schools that we said wasn't safe. Chardon Douglas High School wasn't safe. Those are actual places. And it's sad that the list continues. I don't know if there are any other comments on that.
Yeah, let me first say that's an amazing piece of creativity and artistry. Oh, I especially love that intercom. Oh, that's a good play on words. But anyway, I really appreciate you all for that piece. And I think what struck me the most about it is the relevancy of it, and how things repeat itself, because as you do art, and someone said something to the effect that, you know, the preface is prologue, the preface is prologue, or some to the effect that, you know, you're entering into something that you don't recognize the relevance to it till later on, or even saying Kofa, looking back and moving forward. So that whole sense of we've been here before. And not only have we been here before, but when we documented it, it was like we were documenting something that happened now. So the poem takes on new relevance and new definition in this present situation, but it was just as relevant when it was written as it is now.
Right, great point. Yeah, and that's why this was my first time kind of revisiting the poem since we wrote it 4 years ago, and I was just like, oh, we have a poem on that. Like, maybe I should incorporate that. And just like re-listening, reimagining the situation. It's just like teachers hiding behind chairs, and like the sounds through my little ears. And I mean, it just made me take it all in, rethink about the fear of these kids. And we said high schools too. I mean, at any age, it's so disheartening and saddening. But of course, this was an elementary school. And so it was just really sad to revisit and rethink about that. So I have one more poem to show y'all. Then we're gonna wrap this up. I'm gonna go ahead and read this out loud so I don't just spend time reading. These are incredible social justice poems. How did you find your voice? Or how do you find the way your words go together the way they do? How did you develop this? And once you find your powerful voice like this, how do you find a stage or audience to be heard? How do you get your message out? So that's great. We can kind of move into the Q&A section before I show the last poem. So let me I'm a person, if I send a text message and it has multiple parts of the text message and the person only replies back to one part, I'm like, okay, but I asked all of these things. So I'm gonna go one by one and answer all of these. And other poets can pitch in as well. Naya is a poet, Narelle is a poet, Miss Stacy is a poet, LaRon McAdoo is a poet, but everybody here is a poet as well. So how did you find your voice, or how do you find the way your words go together the way that they do? for me personally, I think I talk to myself a lot. I think a lot. My mind is always thinking. And so for me to just kind of transfer that onto a page or onto a note in my phone, I like to get my ideas out of my head and give them life. So I think how to find my voice is just your voice. Everybody's voice is unique. However you think, however you talk to yourself or talk to God, however you pray or however your outlet is, when you put it in poetry, your voice, your uniqueness comes out in that. And that's why I love workshops, because everybody brings something different to the table. Even if you use the same word, if we all wrote about hope, it would all be completely different because that's our voice. So I think the main thing is just kind of like getting to know yourself, being authentic about yourself, and just writing how you feel, and your authenticity will shine through. How the words come together the way that they do, I think I'm very particular about it, and I kind of get attached to my words, and so that's why I don't really like the editing process. Other poets, like my father, he has a process. Like he'll write it and then add in different things and just continually improving the poem. For me, I write it out, I put it all out in like 15 minutes, and I'm like, oh, that's great, I'm done. That's exactly how I wanted it to be. Then I might share it with someone and they're like, oh, this might take it to the next level, or you should add this. I'm like, it's a great idea, but I kind of like it exactly the way that it is, exactly the way that I put it together. So finding words to go together the way that they do, I would just say is naturally what I want it to be. Sometimes, of course, writer's block, or you get frustrated because it's like, it's not coming out how I want it to, but you just got to keep working through it. Once you find your powerful voice, how do you find a stage or audience to be heard? It's all about, I've had a lot of opportunities to perform, but even if you don't, create your own. I posted my poetry on Instagram in middle school and a little bit of high school. I've been thinking about doing that again, but that's how I did it. I used my platform, my social media, and I just posted my poetry on there. I signed up for talent shows and open mics. Whenever there were events at the school, like our Black History program, I signed up to be a part of it. Then it built, and people started asking me to come places. People started asking me to facilitate workshops or teach writing or perform or do events. So I think it starts with just giving yourself that opportunity, going to an open mic and sharing poetry. Then you can make connections and so on. And then how do you get your message out? I guess I don't really think about, did the message get across? I just think about writing what I want to write and doing it how I want to do it. And hopefully if it reaches just one person, then it did what it was supposed to. Then that was enough. I don't think too much about my audience, or at least I didn't until recently, like in college when I'm starting to write different types of poems. And then I go back home to my parents who are poets and I'm like, do I want to share this one with them? Before it was, I could just do anything. So that's a little different as I've grown up, and my content has kind of shifted a little. I mean, just like relationship wise and stuff like that. But I don't really think about if my message gets out. I just get my message out and it'll reach whoever it's supposed to reach. Okay. Cheryl said, and y'all can unmute too if y'all wanted to, but I did a review on the ABC app last PM. Had 9 articles on the latest big shooting, and the focus on the deputy and that family, and others from there had asked for families and others to be able to grieve and tend to funerals. And as usual, the media is attacking instead. And then we're surprised that the city isn't working with the Texas police nor answering calls from the media. Let them grieve instead of attacking deputy and officers and others. Let them get through funerals instead of attacking. It's plenty of time for that, for finding out all the details, while children's funerals are being planned and carried out that they didn't imagine happening last week before the shooting. I definitely feel that. I saw an interview on TikTok of a father, and he was just crying the whole time. He was just like, I just want my baby back. I just want my baby back. That's all he really said. And I'm just like, it's good to show, I mean, that shows the emotional side. Like we can feel, we're more sympathetic, but at the same time, clearly he was not ready for an interview. He doesn't want cameras in his face. That's the last thing he's thinking about. All he wants is his baby back. His daughter was one of the ones, and he was talking about how he drove her to school that day and how you never know if it's your last day. And so that was my immediate thought, is why is this so media heavy when they're real people, like human, not like he's a father and he just lost his daughter and did it the most unexpected way. So I definitely feel that. Okay, So I'm going to show one last group poem. We're going to wrap up a little early, but I did think this was necessary to include. And I talked a little bit about the righteous and how we were involved with the 60th anniversary of the desegregation of Little Rock Central High School. So in 1957, 9 Black students desegregated an all-white school of nearly 3,000 students. And they went through a lot for it, and they definitely made history. And 8 of the 9 are still living, and we've met with and talked to them. We've done research. We did all of these poems to honor them, their legacy, and make sure we got the story right. So this is a group poem from 3 of our boys who were a part of Righteous. And I couldn't find I have so many videos, but I was just skimming through trying to find. So this was actually one that they performed on the radio, but the performance is still there. And you'll see how they got creative with it.
The fellas. Pencils, check. Paper, check. Notebooks, check. Courage, check. Perseverance, check. Nonviolent mindset, check. 1957 was nowhere near heaven. Blacks with education was a threat, so they made sure we felt threatened. Ignorance was their strongest weapon, so when we were granted better schooling credit, 9 adolescents came face to face with oppression. Set in right here in Little Rock, Arkansas. I feel confused. I left Old Horse Man and I was heavy-hearted. Lasting friendships gone within an instant. I barely had enough time to say goodbye, but had just enough time to say hello as I picked up that phone. I could kill you without even flinching. Every night back at home. Pick one, hanging or lynching. Stop calling me. How did I get here? Big man on campus 1 second, black bullseye the next. Looking foolish, one heck of a fall from grace. At the time I was clueless. Mama said, we still part of the human race, and that's why I gotta do this. Even though at times I didn't think I'd get through this, and the prayers might not have made the glass less sharp. But the blood that ran from my body was that of a tiger. I couldn't see past my nose, but see what they didn't know was that when I bled black and gold. I feel pressured. 1 point of view. 2 things you thought you knew. 3 birds got shot but still flew. I'm a prisoner of the pressure that I can find myself within, only to be held hostage, not only to myself, but to the vicious anger portrayed in everyone else. Walking down the hallway can total vicious cruelty. Walking down the stairs as people continue to stare, and this is all just on the journey. Heading home, the oldest must still take care of his true duties. Wish I could just click my heels 3 times and disappear. Maybe that's my excuse for leaving after my junior year. The pressure had me down, yet I had these guys to help lift me up. I feel anxious. I was just beginning to feel the heat. As summer ended, the pressure was all on me. The whole family, the whole race was dependent on me. I'm anxious because at this point, this is more than just going to school. I wake up at night in cold sweats because of dreams of death threats and missiles constantly aimed at my neck. I hope this pays off. How am I helping? My pops got laid off. This is too overwhelming. Oh, homies calling me. So am I ready for this blessing? I gained strength from my older brother. The other day, he turns to me and tells me, I look up to you. And it meant so much because I'm the youngest. I'm just a baby. Yeah, quit that talking crazy. You continue to outdo me and amaze me. It sounded great, but it didn't make anything easier. The attack still hurt. Kicks to the head got worse and glass cuts were nowhere near perks, but it made my heart stronger, made my will last longer. I got past all my tears, kept my head through the lost year, and now I can say I'm a graduate. Mama, don't cry no more. Daddy, don't cry no more. We were ready, everything you could ever check for. We're 3 small victories in this war, role models for future generations to push towards. 60 years and this is a war we still can't afford. Blacks get set back every day. It's unfair, but we can still celebrate the progress we all share. We're proud Tigers. Can I get a roll call? Ernest Green, Terrence Roberts, Jefferson Thomas, Central Hoorah, yeah!
Yeah, that was great. So like I said, we did a lot of poetry when we were celebrating the Little Rock 9 and what they did, not just for education in Little Rock, but for the civil rights movement. And so they took on the 3 Black men of the Little Rock 9 who desegregated Central High School in 1957. I always make sure they get all the context in my sentences. But yeah, she said that poem still gets me. I miss our Traylon. Rest in peace, Traylon Cranford. He was also a part of Righteous Poets. So yeah, that was one of my favorite poems that they did. I like how they started with the checklist. They were just regular people ready to go to school. You got your pencils checked, paper checked. What about your courage, perseverance? So if there are any comments, questions about poetry, or comments and feedback about the 2 poems that I played, or anything from this workshop, now is the time. You can either unmute or put it in the chat, just reflections about that poem or questions about poetry and activism.
So I really like how, again, going back to the relevance. So you've mentioned being part of the righteous. You've mentioned doing interviews and researching. So how do you come up with the ideas for your pieces?
Yeah, that's a good idea. I mean, that's a good question. I know. So when we did a group poem, or when we do group poems, it was usually in preparation for a group slam, and it was like $400 on the line. So I was like, oh, every year I'm gonna put together a team. I did win 2 out of the 3 years. I was supposed to win. Let me not get ahead of myself. But anyways, so we usually write because we're like, oh, it's a big slam coming up. We got to come with some heat. And so I know for my team, it was called The Vices. I'm gonna type it in the chat so y'all can see it. It's like poetic devices, but the vices, you know, it was cool. So we were the vices, and then I had another team with Narelle, and we were the pros, but I'm gonna type that too. It was spelled like that, like pros, but then pros like professionals. So we just try to get creative. I know we would brainstorm lists of things, like me and Vanessa had a duo poem about parents just don't understand. And so we wrote a list of things that like you can't talk to your parents about, or uncomfortable things to talk to your parents about. So we just wrote a list, and then we made a poem out of that. I think a lot of stuff starts with like ideas, like brainstorming, writing things down. For that, they were the 3 males. And so they were like, what could we do about the 3 males? And so Narelle logged off to talk about it, but I'm sure they had some type of process where they brainstormed out different ideas and just kind of worked from there. With the It's Not a Drill piece that I showed earlier, we actually came up with the title last, and I thought that was a great title, like It's Not a Drill. I think Tamaya came up with that. But we wanted to take on the children. We were just thinking like, how can we show a poem where they know what it was like inside that classroom, those last moments before the tragedy hit? What would have happened? And so we said, no, we got to take it back to the start of the day. My mommy packed a sweet note in my lunchbox. It said, do good and have a good day. It was random, but I said, I love you too. So we wanted to start and have to build it up. You don't just want to start with, you don't want to hit them with it first. You know, when you think about writing, you think about like the rise in action, the climax, and then the falling action and resolution. Like you want to build it and have layers. So we couldn't start with the pow, pow. We had to start with the beginning of the day. It was a beautiful day. I got a nice note in my lunchbox. Wait a minute, I'm hearing something in the intercom. Wait a minute, it's helicopters. What's going on? And then you get into that. And then at the end, my mommy visited my grave today, so that it has a full circle. So I know with my process, when I have a group slam, the first thing is like what are we trying to say? How can we be creative with it? And where do we need to start the piece? So yeah, I'll say that. I have a lot of different examples, but I didn't show all the poems to even talk about them. But I was just thinking about one of Narelle's poems, Coach. He takes on the persona. He takes on a different person, and he kind of gives a storytelling. But again, he doesn't truly tell the story to like the middle or the end of the poem. So I think that's something to think about. Is just try to build it up a little bit before you just hit them with it. Yeah, great question. Thank you. If there are any other, this is like a Q&A time, closing remarks, any type of feedback, either from today's workshop or using poetry and activism in general. I just wanted to give this time for any questions or feedback.
Good job. I enjoyed this.
Thank you, Naya. Thanks for joining. You always say, oh, you know, I need more time, or I didn't finish, but like it's always literally so good. So thank y'all. And Alec, I want to know what school you go to.
I am homeschooled.
Okay, homeschool. Well, I need to either get your email or something so that I can keep inviting you to these. And also, I will put my information in the chat for future things. This is my email. Everyone was so amazing. I agree. Thank you all for coming. Thank you all for sharing. It's not always easy to share. For some people, it's a lot harder to share out loud. So I thank y'all for coming. I know this is virtual. I hope it was still interactive and engaging. Everybody should be leaving here with some great work that you can either continue to add on to or continue to write on. And Ms. Scarlett Sims, did you have anything else to add?
Yeah, I just wanted to thank everybody for coming and to note that we have other GetSmART workshops that are coming up, including one on paper. Stacy raised her hand. Hey. Also, we have a mural project that's coming up. If anyone is interested in using your voice in a visual arts way. And you can find all of our information at arkansasarts.org. I'll just drop it in the chat. And thank you so much for coming, really. And if y'all have any other questions, I think this is a really good time to ask about social justice changes and using your art in a new way. So thank you.
Yes. Go ahead.
So my question was, what final piece of advice would you give us about using our voice in times like these?
Yeah, I had to make sure I was unmuted. That is a good question. And sometimes I still kind of wonder about my place with it, because I think mental health is first. And I want to say that because I want to look back, like I really was really into my poetry during my high school years. And I did Don't Press Play so many times. Like I've cried doing it a few times. Like is that close to me? And it was just sad how repetitive it was. So I think sometimes you might need to take a break from the news. I know we're always like, I need to write. What can I do to help? Like, what can I do? But I think first, making sure your mental health is okay and taking that time. But when you do feel inspired, when you do feel passionate, when you are ready to try to make a difference, the first thing is getting it out there, is writing. It's getting the art, producing the art, whatever you want to do. If you want to, if poetry is in your thing, if you want to just plan the event and get poets to come, or if you just want to post on Instagram, there's nothing that's too big. There's nothing that's too small. So I think first is kind of thinking about your way of action. Like what can I do? What can my action be? And then after that, it's either finding opportunities or making opportunities. Also, collaborations are great. If any of y'all want to throw or host the event or something, now you can reach out to Jamee McAdoo or the Righteous Poets. You can make connections and everything. And also, I would say don't compare yourself to other poets, I think, or just to others. Like, don't compare. You are whole on your own. You are unique on your own. And I think sometimes it might be easy to see, oh, she's doing this or he's doing this, or, I'm not on that level, or maybe, I don't know, whatever your thoughts might be. I would say stay true to who you are. Don't compare yourself, find opportunities or make opportunities. What else I got in the chat? Great. And I really liked hearing from everyone here. Good materials to build on. We'll follow your work. Thank you. Thank you. You unmuted, so I'll let you go.
Have you put your information and contact?
Yes.
In there? Okay. So people can contact you?
Yes. Thanks, Dad. I did put it in there. JameeMcAdoo@gmail.com or JameeMcAdoo.com. I'll reply to both. On my website, there is like a contact thing. But of course, you can always just email. And then we have arkansasarts.org and scarlett.sims@arkansas.gov if you wanted to partner or reach out or learn more about what we're doing here. And then what you offer is completely unique. Every perspective is special. So true. No matter, like, everybody has a different mind. Everybody has a different artistic way of thinking. So anything you do is 100% perfectly you. So I encourage everybody to continue writing and everything. Yeah, thanks, Alec. I see you have to head out. This was amazing. This is great. Thank y'all for spending your Wednesday morning with me. I hope you all got something out of it and enjoyed it. And I just want to encourage you all to keep writing and keep using your voice to spark change.
Before you go, do you have any poets that you recommend reading? Do you read to get inspired?
Okay, I know I need to have a better answer for this because people often ask me like, oh, who are your favorite poets or what do you do? So I mean, I like Nikki Giovanni. My mom mentioned her in the group chat, but honestly, I think for me, and it might just be my generation, my favorite poet could be someone I found on Instagram that I saved their video and I just keep rereading it, or somebody from Bud and Poetry, or somebody from YouTube. So it's like I have so much that I can pull from. Like I have TikTok people that I like people on Instagram and YouTube, but it's like I can't just say like their full name. I just have them saved. And I feel like that's such a like Gen Z or millennial answer. It's like, oh, I just find them on social media. But if y'all have any books to recommend, I know Pyramid Fine Arts and Custom Framing. It's a local bookstore. It's Black owned. She has a lot of different poetry books there. And like I'll skim through and look, but I definitely want to have more poetry books. But I think I like to watch videos and see people my age. And that just comes from everywhere, honestly.
What about that book by Jim or the book by Ron Mack or The Righteous or Naya or
Right. There are a few published authors in here. I will start with myself. I did publish a book of poetry at the age of 16 for my 17th birthday. It was like a birthday present to myself, and I've sold close to 1,000 copies. I kind of stopped printing them, but I do still have one box left, and that book order form is on my website. So I do have a book of poetry. Naya has a book of poetry, In Favor of Everything Right, which is on Amazon, and both of my parents also are published authors. So maybe that's why I don't have a good answer for that, because I just look all around me and all of my family and friends are all professional poets. So I'm like, oh, they're all my favorites. But are there any more In Favor of Everything Right? I said that right, I think.
Yeah, you said it.
Okay, I was like, let me make sure I said it right. It's on Amazon. Somebody just wants to come in the waiting room, but yes, again, thank y'all so much. If there are any other final comments, questions about anything, now is the time. Otherwise, I'm going to pass it back to Miss Scarlett for closing remarks.
Okay, well, thank you so much for coming, and I hope that I'll have you again. We do have Poetry Out Loud that will be coming up this fall. So if we have any young people who are interested in that, that might be something to look into. Also, I guess if you have any questions or have any ideas for workshops that you think are needed for your community, it would be a good time to go ahead and let me know. We'll be for the fall and for next spring. So my email is in the chat. If you would like to save the chat, you can hit the 3 dots on the right under everyone. When you open the chat, there's 3 dots, and you can save the chat that way. Or, or Jamie will put it in again, but we'll also be sending you a video that you can review for a short time. But other than that, thank you so much for coming, and we look forward to seeing you at other GetSmART workshops. So,
all right, thank y'all. Have a good
Bye.
rest of the day.